she's so fine. Hell of her blows my mind. Hell of her lights my day.
What's good, guys? Today is Friday, May the 14th, 2021. This video is going to be regarding Mikayla Miller. Yesterday, Violence in Boston held a live session across all platforms, and I participated in that. I was there and commented several times, and regardless, it was a really good live, and I'm going to share that with you now. But what I want to say on the front end is that of all the cases that I've covered, this by far has been the one that has gotten the most hate stirred up that I've ever seen. It's coming at me. It's coming at Monica Cannon-Grant. It's coming at anybody that wants to get to the truth in this situation. So I just wanted to say that on the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and play the live now.
Welcome, everybody, to Activist Hour with your host, Monica Cannon-Grant. I'm super excited to be in studio with the dopest engineer in the game. Shout out to Lee Francois, who's been holding me down. In spite of all the crazy things that he witnesses, he still stays with me. I'm doing great. In studio, we're going to have Tito Jackson, who's here with me today. And then Shimmy should be here in the next 10 minutes because we're going to dive deep into the work that we've been doing with the family of Mikayla Miller. We're also going to talk about Moses Harris, who lost his life out in Lowell. And then we're going to talk about the work that Violence in Boston has been doing, as well as the former city councilor who is now the weed man. So, hi, Tito.
Cannabis.
What is cannabis? Marijuana?
Yes.
Weed, like I said.
Okay. We won't argue that.
So just want to shout out to people who have now tuned in. Hey, who's that? Hell of a chick. We know that's not your government, but shout out to you. Janelle Hamilton, Joy Noel, can you get Dr. Umar Johnson to come? Yeah, no, I don't think so. But thank you for the offer. Just want to shout you guys out and say hello to you. It's weed, Tito.
Whatever you'd like to call it. I'm gonna have to charge you extra when we get to the store. Then, okay.
Oh God.
Yep.
It's been an amazing ride. Lee ran to go let Shimmy in, so
No?
I'm trying to give him time to come back so he could cut to Tito. About Moses Harris, what happened with the case, and is it the same DA?
I believe so. It's
Where this happened in Lowell?
This is Lowell, and this is
Middlesex County.
Lowell is in Middlesex County.
Moses Harris's murder happened in Lowell under who else? Middlesex District Attorney Marian Ryan. And so Shimmy's gonna run through that case, what the family is dealing with. They're also going to be with us on the 21st to support Mikayla Miller's family in seeking justice, because this DA has continued to cause harm. So Shimmy, floor is yours.
all right. So there's a lot to unpack with this, but I'm just gonna give you the facts, because facts are more important than like feelings.
Yeah.
So basically, on December the 19th, Moses Harris disappeared into the Concord River after being contacted by the Lowell Police Department. His body was later found on March 7th. So let's put the timeline.
Can you do those dates again?
Okay, so on December the 19th, his last interaction with anybody was a police officer. Officer still unknown. The community, the family still doesn't know who this police officer is. That's one of the demands. But he interacted with Moses. There's a 15 to 20 second video where you can see the officer approaching Moses stepping out of his vehicle, looking like he's scared. He starts backpedaling and running towards the river. There's no more video after that. Allegedly, Moses jumped into the Concord River. His body wasn't found until March 7th by a civilian who was just out walking their dog. Let me check the date just to make sure that I read this correctly. Yes, after 77 days, he was found walking by the Merrimack River, spotted about 15 yards from shore in Andover, about 5 miles downstream from where they said he allegedly
That's
disappeared.
almost 3 months.
3 months.
3 months.
So every Saturday, and let me put the org out there that's been handling the case with the family. It's community advocates for justice and equality. Every Saturday, they've been mobilizing people in Lowell. And every Saturday, the two questions the family were asking is, where is Moses? Because he had disappeared into the river and nobody had found him. And what happened to him? And on March 7th, he was found in the Merrimack River. So since then, again, the name of the officer involved has still not been released.
No police report?
There's been no police report.
So, DA Ryan, Marian Ryan,
no video footage.
The same district attorney for the Mikayla Miller case has withheld the police report. So this is a habit of hers.
Yes.
Withheld the police report, withheld the officer's name, and has yet to give this family any answers. I wanted to do this show tonight because I need y'all to understand the level of incompetency that we are dealing with this district attorney. But go ahead, Shimmy.
But again, though, so 77 days had went by. Now, I remember at the Mikayla Miller vigil, Tito had said something that I'm sure everybody who was there who had heard about the story thought about, but like probably didn't say out loud. And when you say it out loud, it hits different. But would 77 days have went by if Moses was a white man?
Nope.
Hell no.
77 days. And to think, this is my question, and I don't like to bring feelings into situations, but like, he ran from the officer, allegedly jumped into the water, and then they just assumed that he drowned, but did not find him at all. And then a civilian found him 77 days later, just casually walking in a river, in a well-populated place. This is not adding. Something's not adding up to me.
It hurts my heart to think of a black man who, as you're noting, you can't tell me that footage just cuts off like that. And we know. By the way, I actually got a presentation from multiple body cam companies. These are very quality and durable situations. It did not say that Moses attacked a police officer, right?
Right.
So therefore, what's your malfunction with your camera? Why is that not the case? And we also know that these cameras are backed up in real time to the cloud.
Right.
So that information is actually available and should at least, honestly, out of the decency of dealing with this family, even if you don't show us, that family should be pulled aside, brought in, and at least able to see that information. And that's legit, and I've seen that happen even under our prior DA, Dan Conlon.
The other piece is you withhold camera footage. Tito, isn't there another case you withheld camera footage in?
Sure is.
What case is
Mikayla
that?
Miller.
Okay. Where from April 2nd to April 18th, mysteriously the cameras was just disappeared. Gone.
They worked fine right after the Mikayla Miller.
Oh yeah, right
incident. Yeah.
right after Mikayla's body was found, the cameras came back on. Ironic, isn't it?
It is. So that's why I feel like it's important not to try to like overshadow one death with another, because they're both tragic and both families deserve justice. But it's like, what are the odds that this stuff happens in the same county, in the same state, and both people are black?
Yeah. So let me tell you something, Shemi. After hearing about Moses Harris and then the floodgates opening around Mikayla Miller, I felt like I stepped into an episode of CSI Miami or Law and Order SVU because the amount of evidence that was coming me and Tito's way was like, I couldn't catch up with it. I said to my husband, I'm like, I should have went to law school. I'm in the wrong profession because none of it added up. But it also didn't add up to people who are proficient in the legal field. It also didn't add up to press. It didn't add up to community members. It just didn't add up for a number of different reasons. And so, Tito, why don't you talk about how we got involved with the Mikayla Miller case?
So I received a Instagram message from a friend of mine, Beth Tarpley, who I went to high school with. I don't think I've talked to Beth since 1995, 1996, but we hit each other online regularly. She actually lives in Chicago, and so she hits me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I sometimes have some sleeping issues, so I happen to be up. So I hit her up in the morning, and she said, Tito, I want you to talk to a really good friend of mine. There's something really crazy going on out there. And I said, cool, I'll talk to him. So a young man named David calls me and tells me about Mikayla Miller. Mm-hmm. He is friends with Miss Strothers, who is the mom of Mikayla, and lets me know that there is a black girl, 16 years old, who was jumped by 5 white kids one night, I believe April 17th. Mm-hmm. And then later that night later that next morning, her body was found with a belt around her neck. Initially, I was told hanging on a tree.
Right.
And so again, this came to me not from someone here, but it came to me through this route because Ms. Strothers is actually a hairstylist and is nationally known and had relationships with some folks out in Chicago, Illinois. And so what I did.
There'll be a Q&A at the end. You'll definitely be able to ask questions.
No, definitely. And what I did in this situation was one, I first called Monica. I called the Boston branch NAACP, Martha's Vineyard branch NAACP. I called the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. I called the ACLU. Any other? No other orgs on that. I'm sorry. And I called Representative Uncle Russell. I called Representative Russell Holmes. And a night after, we actually jumped on a call. At that point, with now, mind you, when I called the Boston branch NAACP president, Tanisha Sullivan, she actually called the DA, Marian. And interestingly, after that call, the day after, which was the 12th day after Mikayla Miller's body was found, the DA finally got around to calling Mikayla Miller's mother, Calvina Strothers.
Which was 12 days after Mikayla had passed away.
And the day before her funeral.
Right.
So I would note, and I want to make a distinction here, the district attorney for Suffolk County, Rachel Rollins, every single person who loses somebody receives at least a personal call from the DA, and then oftentimes receives a visit. This is, and by the way, this is not about lawyering. This is just simply about being a human being and doing the right thing by folks. I was an elected official. Monica ran for elected office. Shimmy is doing this work. This is literally about, hey, you lost somebody. I heard that this happened. This is under my jurisdiction. How are you doing? And what can I do to help? That's a basic tenet here. And so with that said, our whole group listened to Ms. Strothers tell the story, and all of us were fighting back tears.
Right.
We were trying to be strong for her, but I absolutely wanted to cry because listening, as Shimmy said earlier, 5 white kids, 2 of them adult males, 2 18-year-old males, jumped one 16-year-old black girl, walked outside after they jumped her, taunted her for 20 minutes, right? And then left. Mikayla walked home. The police were then called. Mm-hmm. The police received a full statement and every single name of each individual who jumped Mikayla, which is a very important point. So the police in Hopkinton know all of the names of those who jumped Mikayla. And again, Mikayla's body was found in dense forest. I'm not even going to say woods. I'm going to say forest on a tree that was 3 inches, maybe 3 inches in diameter.
She was standing on her feet.
Standing on her feet.
With a black sweatsuit.
With a hat on.
With a hat on perfectly on her head. With white sneakers that did not have any dirt on them. With a black belt tied around her neck with multiple knots.
A belt, not a rope.
A belt.
With multiple knots.
Right.
And so I ask of all of the folks who are here, and I'm going to say it one more time, and Shimmy said it earlier, but hypothetically, imagine this. 5 black kids from Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan go to Hopkinton. They jump a white 16-year-old young lady. Mm-hmm. And that's 7 p.m. And then 7 a.m. the next morning, she ends up dead. What would happen to those black kids?
They will all be arrested, face plastered across the television, and they will be held until they figured out who murdered her.
In multiple rooms in the police station.
That part.
Telling each other that Monica's telling on you, Shimmy, Tito's telling on you, and all of those fingers would be pointed. They would be held there for hours. And as you noted, and I was here for the Carol Stewart case, I was 14, 15 years old, all-out manhunt for every black male, 5'8" to 6'2", 165 pounds to 225 pounds at that time. And when it comes down to it, when they want to, there is accountability. And this is about the value of someone's life. Does the life of a black girl in Hopkinton, where her mama's paying rent for luxury apartments that supposedly don't have cameras.
Mind you, the cameras are placed where the packages are picked up. The Amazon packages, the FedEx packages, the mail, in this very high-class neighborhood. The other piece is Mikayla was 5'5" and 180 pounds. She couldn't hang from that tree if she wanted to. Her body weighs too much. I think it's very... Facts matter, information matter, and it's very important to state that she was not hanging. She was standing on her feet. 5'5", 180 pounds with the belt tied around her neck and multiple knots. Hat perfectly placed on her head. Black sweatsuit that does not require a belt. When myself and D.A. Ryan went on Jim Browdy, she admitted that this was a crime. A crime was committed when they attacked Mikayla. Both Jim and I questioned her and stated, why hasn't an arrest been made? She emphasized that it's because Mikayla is no longer with us.
What?
And I said to her that didn't make any sense. No. Well, when block them. Lord, I just lost my train of thought. She said because Mikayla wasn't alive as to why there had been any criminal charges.
Well, hold on. She was alive. Hold on.
When she made the report. Right.
That said she was a victim of an assault.
Which, by the way, I watched this over and over. Monica CSI or whatever we want to CSI Monica. But when it comes down to it, that point to me is a critical point. There was an assault that everyone agrees, including the DA. That actually happened. And actually and mind you, this wasn't Monica. This is Jim Browdy.
Block. Mm-hmm.
Jim Browdy said, well, hold on. We agree that assault occurred. Where's the justice for that assault? Mm-hmm. What happened there? And I think I want to go a little bit further and note that the sergeant from the state police department, Sergeant O'Brien, mm-hmm. who was the initial investigator, came to the house mm-hmm. and said, your daughter left last night and committed suicide.
Right. He ultimately came to a conclusion with no investigation and said, trust me, because of my 19 years of experience on the force, I know these things. She committed suicide.
And this progressed, and this relationship with this officer who was supposed to be leading the investigation progressed. And he told, and I'm happy that we are on a media platform, he told the mom, Ms. Strothers, not to go to the press, not to seek out activists because he would be then forced to disclose that that her daughter is from the LGBTQIA community.
That's another thing that makes zero sense. Like, did that really happen? That really happened?
Yes, that really happened, and it was as if he was assuming that her mother had an issue with her sexuality. But when I come to the conclusion, the more I kept saying it to myself, I don't believe it was him worried about Mikayla. I believe he was worried about Mikayla's girlfriend at the time being highlighted in this scenario, because Mikayla's ex-girlfriend is one of the 5 teens that engaged in jumping her. Who, by the way, per online articles and information, was advised to go on a white supremacist platform to discredit, slander, and shame Mikayla's mother as well as Mikayla, and then inflicted violent white woman tears after she had slandered both of them on this platform. I also want to highlight that the reason why the Boston Herald did the article is because they were instructed to. It was leaked to them purposefully to attack Mikayla's mother. And the reason why is because, as they so gracefully highlighted, there was an assault case involving Mikayla and her mother from March of 2020, not 2021.
2020. Say it one more time.
2020, right? And in this particular case, it was supposed to be dismissed, but because of COVID, it didn't get dismissed. But they told her, well, when you come back to court, we're just going to dismiss it. There's no reason to keep it open, right? Because Mikayla is deceased. We had the visual and rally in Hopkinton, which they kept trying to get us to change it from rally and just make it just the visual because they were uncomfortable with the words rally. And after that rally, she then went to court for her court date and was told, well, because you rallied in Hopkinton yesterday, we're keeping this case open until July. Well, my question is how are you keeping a case open and Mikayla is not here? It's the same reason why you claim you couldn't arrest these 5 white teenagers, because Mikayla is not here. So then how do you keep a case open involving her mother open? So after a discussion with the reporter that Tito had, Tito, tell him what the reporter told you.
No, so what I had an opportunity, I had a relationship, and I just went ahead and said, listen, this is bogus that the weekend before Mother's Day, the first time that Miss Strothers will have to deal with not being the mom of her daughter in 16 whole years,
Block Clipper 59,
that you would drop a story like this. And they said, well, this is valid because the case is still open, right? So this is a critical component here where I again question the DA Ryan's office in terms of how this case has been handled, because it baffles me how something like this is a year-old case that you would have to look for. So you can do LexisNexis, you can do all that stuff, but you'd have to look for it. And interestingly, had that case been dropped, that story would not have been written. So if you look at the writing in the story, it says has an open case. So had that story not had that case been closed, which by the way, I do want to note, July 23rd, is about 3 months from now. One of the things that we know in the state medical examiner system, it takes about 3 months for them to get the toxicology report back. So what this leads me to believe, and there feels like this is very coincidental, that you would wait 3 months and punt this off 3 months when this case could have easily been closed. Hypothetically, by the way, when you go to court, what we know is it costs a lot of money for folks to go to court, and lawyers are not free. So for you to now take a mom who lost somebody, who's had to bury their child, because nobody saves to have their 16-year-old child be buried. There's all those financial burdens, and you're going to continue with someone who now has lost their child, and you could have taken this off of their plate. This hurts my heart. but it also screams for accountability. And it makes me question whether or not there's the transparency and accountability that needs to be happened. And this is why we are calling for an independent investigation when it comes to this case. You are mishandling, mismanaging, and you're using the press and the insight. And I will also note one of the things, and I want to give DA Ryan's office props, they have been in touch in other situations, giving a heads up to the family. What makes me question what's going on is, how was there no heads up given when you knew that the Boston Herald was going to drop this story?
Right. So I want to address some of the comments that's happening.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna address the Turtle Boys. You can continue to block Lee because they're having a field day. In this Brendan Walsh person.
They don't ever get tired.
Oh no, they don't get tired.
But they don't. But this is my thing. I'm sorry, Monica.
Go ahead. No.
But they don't ever appear in person. Ever.
Because they're keyboard thugs,
basement dwellers.
Yeah.
Like I just can't fathom it. And it's like every time he writes an article, it's like he's able to steer all of these sheep, and these sheep just come out of the woodwork.
But you know what? Let me say something to you. The power of white supremacy.
Yo, it's crazy.
Let me tell you something. The power of white supremacy is prevalent in Massachusetts. And it's prevalent because these same individuals have a relationship with the police department. Let's just be clear. Yeah. The Mikayla's ex-girlfriend's family was told to go on this platform because they weren't going to push back on them on any of the false narratives that they were creating. Yep. We're not deleting people who disagree with us. We're deleting racists and white supremacists. Let's be clear, right? We're deleting people who, for so many reasons, you don't like our black body, so of course you're going to have this alternative opinion. But the issue is this. Not ever has there been a homicide where you come to the conclusion of suicide before an investigation and have a whole town perpetuate that narrative in such a cult fashion. Has it happened that people are like, what is going on here? Right? And then we'll try to get rid of Brett. Then we'll try to paint this narrative that Mikayla was being abused to deflect away from the fact that 5 white teenagers beat her to the point. Whose phone?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I thought there was background music playing, and I just got these new. I'm sorry. I don't want to play LL Cool J. This is for the lover in you.
Oh God.
LL Cool J, Howard Hewitt, and Jody Watley. No, I'm just kidding. But okay, I apologize.
The narrative that Mikayla was being abused, and this is why she ended up dead. Okay, so this is March of 2020. A case where there was admittedly by this Middlesex District Attorney's Office no evidence that abuse was taking place, so that the actual DCF case had been closed. All of this stuff had been taken away because they found no evidence. White people hate to hear that you're innocent. It's the same thing they did with George Floyd when they said that the police didn't kill him, he had drugs in his system. It's the same thing that they did to Breonna Taylor when they said her boyfriend was a drug dealer. It's the same thing. They have to find something to justify your death because it is unfathomable to them that someone would kill you just because of the melanin in your skin. It is unfathomable because that is not their story. Because white supremacy has given them such great privileges that that's not their experience. The fear that is coming from this town around the truth around this case is astonishing, to the point where guidance counselors at the school were telling the kids, right? Mikayla committed suicide. Is nothing to worry about.
And but they also said she took pills.
Yeah, and died in her room. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Which let's also delve down and peel back. It is also interesting because typically, but there's a difference between how girls commit suicide versus boys generally. And so there is a statistical data that shows that women usually take a less violent route. So this piece here, and that's why those guidance counselors are actually saying that, right?
Right.
In addition, what you were saying earlier, and let's address the elephant or turtle in the room. Yes, exactly. Again, multiple platforms are used to weaponize racism, and they call it, in their world, accountability, transparency, and from that side. These are the cowards who, when we were younger, wrote racist things on the walls in the men's bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're the ones who now can hide behind Twitter handles. They're the ones who now can hide behind the Facebook pages that I received messages from, that they have one. They'll have one follower that started that day.
Well,
Listen,
the page was just created today.
yes, but listen, if you guys believe, and I see in here someone's like, those kids were cleared or the like, my question is, how are you receiving information? Is it from the police that you're receiving information? Because I find it really ironic that you are making statements such as this that
Can you post J. Marie's comment, Lee?
that are unfounded and not known to the family. And by the way, stop speaking for this family.
Right.
Did
you see the comment? Turtle Boy works with the police. They're all the same. They go for the absurdity and stay for the racism. It's disgusting. He also a teacher who had to leave his job for sexual misconduct. Shocking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. That's known in the community, and like his supporters still look past that.
But also, you got to remember they did the same thing with Trump. It was okay that he was grabbing vaginas. Remember?
Oh, this is insane.
And so if they easily overlook. Who is this? How did the autopsy took 2 hours? My husband's took months. I would never trust the autopsy that was done so quickly. Tito, get into the information about the length of the autopsy.
Let me just say this.
And then block her.
There's a component here. So we do need to note that the medical examiner does the primary autopsy, right? So they have the body as it's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to do something that they call a toxicology, right? So a toxicology is actually looking at the fluids that are in your body, doing a blood test that looks at alcohol, potential drug use, any potential agents that don't deserve to be in your blood. They also will look at the contents of your stomach,
mm-hmm.
right? They, in addition, will look at your body relative to whether or not you have bruises, broken bones, or anything on that level.
Mm-hmm.
But the toxicology is something that you can only do pre-embalming. Right, so when you go to the funeral home, they remove your blood
mm-hmm.
and they put a preservative into your body. Right, so that doesn't happen in a second opinion case. There's no toxicology, right? So
because you have been embalmed and that now jeopardizes the.
So the piece that this individual is talking about, who says, hey, it couldn't take 2 hours or the like, we're actually, what you typically are waiting for when there is a medical examiner situation is the toxicology report that goes to labs outside of the medical examiner's office that they can't do. And I know on TV, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like they do all of that stuff all at one time with the red-haired dude, the CSI Miami dude, or whatever that is, right?
Horatio?
Horatio, right? The lab don't work that fast. And so that's a component. So understanding a second look at the body is looking at it after it has already been essentially taken apart.
Right.
And then to look at, is there any additional trauma or the like? So this process is able to be done in a very short period of time. We won't get into specifics about who, but let's understand that we don't play, and we're not dealing with pathologists who just got out of school yesterday. These are individuals who are board certified. They are nationally renowned for their work, and the real piece here is getting as many eyes of accountability on this case as possible. Mm-hmm. By the way, Monica nor I are medical doctors, right? That's not our job. By the way, we are also not law enforcement officials, but the fact that information is coming to and through us is problematic because your job is to actually investigate this case. It's not our job. We don't even live in that county. But I'll be damned if I let a black girl who, for all by the way, whether or not she was quote unquote good or bad, but in this case, honor roll student, never given any problems, to the community mom or any of that stuff. Basketball player doing her thing. Why wouldn't you want to be on the side of being better safe than sorry? Because the other piece is the opposite of what could happen is you could have individuals who are walking amongst your community, even though they're in high school, who may have killed somebody.
Also, I just want to answer this question that was asked. No, the belt is not her mother's. In fact, her mother asked them to test the belt for fingerprints, DNA, all the things, so that she could have all the information. So the narrative that they're creating, the belt's not her mother's, Mikayla was not being abused, she was well taken care of. All of that is to deflect away from the fact that these 5 white teenagers killed her. Let's just keep it a buck. I'm not in the habit of sugarcoating it, and I'm not in the habit of making anybody comfortable. Part of the reason. Also, the fraudulent text message screens that was put out by that other white supremacist organization, because he won't get hype off of me, were orchestrated text messages. Let's be clear. My daughter went through the whole walkthrough of how you can literally text yourself and make it seem as if you're texting somebody. And it's very funny that was the platform that was chosen to go on to AKA defend yourself. Not ABC, not NBC, not NEC, and none of those. You chose the white supremacist organization to go to for comfort because of his relationship with police departments across this state.
And can I just state how disgustingly low of a human being, and I use the words human being loosely, that you would have to be to sully a dead girl's name and to create text messages in her name that are false. That, like, I can't fathom that. And the question for me is, why y'all going so hard? If there was nothing that happened
and everybody was innocent, why are y'all going so hard? I mean, angry.
Yeah, right. And your attack, and I've received, Monica's better at the communication platform. I've received stuff in my inboxes, folks posting or the like. I don't understand why folks are so willing and wanting to state that this young lady killed herself. Why wouldn't you want justice?
Shondell Mosby, I know who you are, so absolutely, I don't think the email to the guidance is real, but a lot of the questions and your perspective, I'm not quite sure what side you're on. So once I figure that out, then we can have a conversation, because I don't respond to white supremacists. So I don't know what team you play for.
So I also want to help folks think about another issue here. So hypothetically, there was. And I'm not stating this as a fact. I don't know what happened in this situation, but what I do know is that in 2010, there was a young lady in a town called South Hadley, and her name was Phoebe Prince. And Phoebe Prince was a very well-liked young lady who was attending high school and had a relationship with one of the young men on the football team. And she was bullied. And Phoebe Prince committed suicide. The question is, what happened after she committed suicide?
Right.
6 of her peers were criminally charged in that case for their contributions to her committing suicide.
This was a white girl.
Hold on. Whoever the Shondell Mosby person is, I can't tell what your profile picture is to know who you are. You said, okay, I thought you knew me. I'm not sure who you are. There are a bunch of people with the same name, and I'm looking at a screen that doesn't show me who you are. I'm looking at just your name. So if you're somebody that knows me and you're of color, that's one thing. But if you're not, we're not engaging in this conversation, because this is Mikayla Miller is the focus. I can't tell who you are from where I'm sitting. This is not my personal Facebook page. This is the Violence in Boston page, where we're followed by 30,000 people. So I just want to be clear.
I do want to keep going with this, though.
Yeah,
I want to read the suicide of Phoebe Prince. The suicide of Phoebe Prince on January 14, 2010 led to the criminal prosecution of 6 teenagers for charges including civil rights violations, as well as to the enactment of stricter anti-bullying legislation by the Massachusetts state legislature. Prince had moved from Ireland to South Hadley in the U.S. state of Massachusetts. Her suicide after suffering months of bullying from school classmates brought international attention to the problem of bullying in American schools. In March 2010, a state anti-bullying task force was set up as a result of her death. The Massachusetts legislation was signed into law May 3rd, 2010. I want to note she died January 14th, 2010.
What's that, 5 months?
Yes.
So in 5 months, we put together a task force and got a law passed because Phoebe killed herself after being bullied, and we're still awaiting an arrest in Mikayla Miller's case where 5 white teenagers have jumped her. The DA admitted on Jim Browdy that this was a crime was committed and this was a criminal act. There has been no arrest, but Phoebe gets a task force. Yep. Huh?
And now, mind you, and I don't want to diminish or discount. Let's understand. We're not diminishing or discounting what should have happened in the case of Phoebe Prince. But we are making a distinction. When Monica and I began to work with the Strothers family, we got one article that did not even say Mikayla's name in it.
Nope.
It said that it was a 16-year-old individual who was found. It was like 4 lines.
She was found dead. There's no, it's not suspicious, and there's no foul play.
And I do want to also note is Phoebe Prince's mother, Ann O'Brien, settled with the town of South Hadley in October 2010. She agreed not to sue or reveal details of the settlement for $225,000. So and by the way, that's too little. So I just want to keep it 100.
That's not enough.
That's not enough,
right?
For the loss of Phoebe Prince's child and for her family. That is not enough.
Right.
What I do want to note here, though, is to look at, as should be just noted, you got and Monica just noted, you had a whole task force, state legislation that was not only proposed, but passed in a 5-month time frame, and broad scale international outrage over this issue of bullying. So in the event, and I can't say this to be true, and I know that there's people who are caking for this right now on declaring this suicide, and it's what. But the question I have is, how is there no account for the individuals who jumped her the night before? And hypothetically, and I don't know this to be the case, either way, I don't particularly at this point from the information I have, this doesn't make sense physically. The laws of physics involved in how this happened, but there is a culpability for these individuals. We are also proponents. We're not lock them up and throw away the key crew in here,
right?
But we are a crew that's about accountability. And if you took the life of an individual, there are consequences in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, but there also should be consequences in Hopkinton, Lowell,
Scott,
exactly.
Holbrook,
all the places, all the places. It needs to be consequences, and so we're simply noting the differences in these cases, and how one was handled versus the other. Okay. We're gonna be out there at 3 p.m. alongside the Black Panthers, alongside BLM supporters, alongside so many people who are descending on Lowell to mobilize for the life and to seek accountability, because justice would be Mikayla still being here, but to seek accountability in the Mikayla Miller case. What is that? Oh, I hear my son. Also, we will be joined by the family of Moses Harris because they still have not received justice in that case. Both families deserve justice. This district attorney has a history of cover-up. Let's not forget that she withheld 19 pages in a case, and the U.S. Supreme Court has had to intervene in cases in Middlesex County because her inability to be transparent and actually advocate for the people she represents. So May 21st, we will be at her office in Lowell, mobilizing, protesting, and demanding her removal from the Mikayla Miller case. I also want to say, we also don't want any of her colleagues. We want the FBI to take this case. And the reason being is because of just the political connectivity and relationships in Massachusetts. I don't want nobody to think that we're not cognizant of the fact that she has friends and people want to protect her for whatever reason. And white supremacy is real in this state.
Yes.
We want independent people to come in and investigate this case and simply give this family the truth and justice that they deserve. So this has been Activist Hour. We will be back next Thursday with more updates. Hopefully when we come back next Thursday, y'all will have so much information that y'all will be looking for me, and I won't be looking for y'all.
I want my check from this Activist Hour.
Because apparently we're supposed to get like a stipend or paid by the people.
So with all this, what's going on? I'm teasing.
These words are free. But that's what the people believe. The people believe that you're paid and we're all paid and everybody's paid, but we're just doing what's right.
I charge per word.
So I will say,
a lot of money.
I'm not paying y'all, but Violence in Boston is a nonprofit.
Yes.
I am an employee of Violence in Boston, as well as I have an employee, my chief financial officer. When we post our job listings and we're hiring, you guys are more than welcome to apply.
Can you put a word in for me?
I got you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Follow us at Violence in Boston, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. We are everywhere. This has been an amazing show. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Shimmy. Thank you, Tito. And we are out.
Peace.
Deuces.
So that was the live. They also discussed the case of Moses Harris, which I was unaware of, but I am now also looking into, and I probably will put a video out on this channel regarding that matter. But regardless, the protest is slated for May the 21st at 3 p.m. in Lowell, Massachusetts. If you are able to attend, please do so. And I will continue to update you regarding the Mikayla Miller case. Thanks for watching, guys.